Good morning. So have you guys ever, your parents have told you not to do something or to do something, and you guys don't listen to them because you think you're right, and whatever, you want to do, you're going to do it, no matter what your parents say? Well, I agree with this quote, and it's by Wadsworth. By the time a man realizes that maybe his father was right, he usually has a son who thinks he's wrong. So I'm going to explain three situations. One with my personally with my mom, relationship with my mom, and then one when I first got a dog, and kind of an overall situation. The first one is for my mom. We've always not really had a good relationship, just because we've always butt heads. Whatever I want to do, she tells me not to do it, or she gives me a different type of advice, and I've always been no, I'm right, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's why we've always never had a relationship. And now that we don't live together, I always call her for advice when I'm cooking, when any problem throughout the day. I'll call her multiple times, and then I realized that she was right, and I should have listened to her more when I was living with her. And then another one is when I first got a dog. I was had just lived in my apartment for a month, so I was barely adjusting living in my apartment for a month. So I was really wanting a dog, and I convinced my boyfriend, let's get a dog. And I was looking online, and I was looking, and then my mom had said, maybe you shouldn't get a dog because you barely moved in, you have to adjust living out, and then you're gonna just throw a dog in the mix, and I wanted to get a puppy, so it was going to be a lot of hard work. So I ended up getting the dog, and it was very difficult because I had to potty train him, and for a while my boyfriend was like, maybe we shouldn't have got a dog, maybe your mom was right, maybe your parents were right. And then in the end, we kept him because I feel like he's the best dog ever, I think now maybe we should have waited, but now that, I'm kind of in between because he is the best dog, he is a wonderful dog, but then I was like, well, maybe we should have waited because I feel like we can't do much things because we have to make sure that we take him for a walk, or we have to come back home. And we live in a small apartment, so it doesn't give him much room to run around. So we have to just constantly take him to the park a lot. And then my third example is just in general, in dating, when a person tells you, a friend tells you, hey, maybe you shouldn't date that person because they've known to cheat before, or they've known to just not be faithful, and then you don't listen to that person, but then in the end, when you get cheated on, you realize that maybe I should have listened to my friend. So in conclusion, I with the example with the relationship with my mom, and then me getting a dog, and then just a person not listening to a friend about advice. You want to just listen to advice and think about it, because sometimes you could be right, but sometimes you could be wrong, and you just have to think about your decisions in life. Thank you.
All right, well, you've got a rhetorical question to get our attention. You tell us what the quote is, that's fine. You don't really tell us what your point of view is before you give us the preview. So I get the general impression about what you're saying, but I think you could be a little bit more definitive at the beginning. There is a preview. It's a little abstract, but I can tell that there's going to be a structure to the speech, and then you do follow up with a structure, so that part's good. And I think you developed the points pretty effectively. The first point especially, and everybody likes the dog story too. Your third point seems like it's just kind of a repeat of the same concept, only more abstract, and you're struggling to find something to say on that point. It would be better if you had an actual story that went with it, as opposed to the hypotheticals. I think you could tell that because the first two examples are real, and you've got something to talk about, and then when you get that third one, you're trying to imagine something, and it doesn't come across quite as effectively. Presentation issues, I think vocally you've got good energy. There are occasional vocalized pauses, the ums or ers, but they are not anything that's excessive. They are usually indicators that you are getting to the next point, to another idea, and you're hesitating for just a second. Just something to think about, maybe work on it a little bit. It was not a huge problem. It's not something that detracted from your presentation, but it's something that you could work on to get better. The one thing that I think that you need to do a little bit more efficiently at the beginning of the speech is to settle into your presentation. After the first minute, you were great, but in that first minute, you're swaying and bouncing on your feet. That's all your anxiety coming up. And then I think after you've been talking for a minute, you relax a little bit and you just start talking to us, and you're much more efficient that way. And I think that works better. So I know it's that first burst of energy is going to come out when you get up to speak. You just need to maybe pay attention to that a little bit. Otherwise, everything I think was pretty solid. All right, thank you.